All right, everyone, welcome to Unit 3. So, we're going to be talking about the presidency, and today is really just the basics of the executive branch. And so, these are the objectives right here, the roles of the president, qualifications in terms of the presidency, and we'll end up with presidential succession. So, first of all, I want to start by saying that the Constitution in Article 2 outlines all aspects of the president's jobs. And so it talks about things like the powers that the president has, how long his term is, how elections are to be held, what the qualifications to be president are, the different positions that they get to appoint, how impeachment would go, how presidential succession goes. All of that is listed in Article 2 of the Constitution. So let's go ahead and start with what the roles of the president are. There's a bunch of them. This guy has a lot of jobs to do. So first, he's chief of state. And what that really means is he's a symbol of the people. So when people think America, they think the president. So he should represent us. He should be representative of who we are. And so chief of state, he's the symbol of the people. Next, he is chief executive. Chief executive means that he is important in domestic and international affairs. So a lot of things the president says will eventually become policy, both internationally or domestically. Next, he is the chief administrator. He runs a bureaucracy that employs 2.7 million people, and he's their boss. Fourth, he's chief diplomat. He is the architect of our foreign policy. He's our spokesman to the rest of the world. So he is our main foreign policy dude. And for the longest time, this really was the most important part of the president's job. But now they do other things as well that are as important. And so they're not just seen simply as the chief diplomat, but it is a very important part of their job. They're also chief legislature. And so in this role, the president is going to shape and influence much of the legislation that's proposed to Congress. Should be noted, though, and you should probably write this down, the president does not create or propose legislation himself. He simply, by virtue of who he is, influences his party to pass the kinds of laws that he would want to sign. Sixth, he's commander-in-chief of our military. And as commander-in-chief, during times of war, the president will make all important decisions for the military. No decisions will be made without him. In addition to that, the president can also send the military anywhere he wants for 60 days. If he wants to keep them there past 60 days, he has to ask Congress for permission to keep them there. Seventh, he's the chief economist. Eighth, he's the chief of party. He's the head of the party. And ninth, he's the chief citizen. He is the representative of all people in America. And so when a president is elected, while they may be extra fond of the people who voted for them, the president is supposed to represent everyone. And that's going to be really, really difficult. It's kind of hard to want to do things for people who didn't want you in the first place. So, it's kind of a hard job. You have to be nice to people you don't want to be nice to. And that's hard for all of us. Now, you might be thinking, well, Mr. Nunn, those 9 jobs sound absolutely amazing, and holy smokes, I would love to become president. And it's an election year. I think I'm going to run, Mr. Nunn. Hold your horses. There's some qualifications, and none of you meet them. You cannot be president yet. So here are the qualifications. First, you have to be a native-born U.S. citizen. So you have to be born a U.S. citizen. Second, You have to be at least 35 years old. And unless you're a super, 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 super senior, you do not meet this qualification. Fun fact, this is the first election ever that I'm old enough to be on the ticket. So if you want to write my name in on your ballot, because you get to vote, if you want to write my name in on the ballot, feel free. I would love to have a vote or two for president. You also have to have been a resident of the United States for at least 14 years. You might be thinking, well, Mr. Nunn, I'm a native born U.S. citizen. Of course I've been a resident for 14 years. Yes, that may be true, but sometimes people leave the States for a couple of years, go live in another country. I know it's absolutely bizarre because America is absolutely the best. Why would you want to leave? But sometimes people leave and live abroad for a couple of years. It's a lovely experience. Nice time to go drink some coffee and eat some baguettes. Um, but when you come back and you reestablish residency in the United States, you have to be here for 14 years before you can run for president. And finally, you can serve up to two 4-year terms as president. So you could be president a total of 8 years. Now, if you're still thinking this sounds like an amazing job, and you're like, I'm even qualified, here's the stuff you get when you are president. It's pretty sweet. First, everyone loves that cash. $400,000 a year. That's how much money you get as president. But there's more. You get to live in the White House, this beautiful place right here. Look, it even has a fountain right there. Whoa, right there. Fountain. Super rad, dude. You get to use Camp David whenever you want. This is a presidential retreat where you get to go and you get to hang out and unwind from all of the stress in the world. You get a whole fleet of cars, helicopters, airplanes that travel you around, and they are tailored specifically for your needs. Now, if something happens and the president is no longer able to be president, there are a myriad of reasons why this may be a thing. We do have presidential succession. And so it goes president, vice president, speaker of the House of Representatives, president pro temp of the Senate, and then the cabinet members in the order of their department's establishment. You might be thinking, well, Mr. Dunn, that's kind of vague. No, no, it's not vague at all. Every department or every cabinet is an advisory group to the president. And that advisory group has someone who's in charge of that cabinet. And they're called the secretary of something. For example, there's a secretary of the interior, or secretary of the treasury, or you've probably heard of this guy, the attorney general. These are all people who are cabinet members, who are the president's closest advisors, who are on the list of presidential succession in the order of their department's creation. And so I actually feel an extra credit question coming for this next test. If you can name the first 10 places of presidential succession in the correct order, you'll get 10 points extra credit. If you can name the person who controls that spot, for example, for vice president, you would put Mike Pence. You would get 10 more points extra credit. So that's up to 20 points extra credit on the next test. And I'm going to end my lecture right there for today. Thank you for listening. I hope you do well on your quiz tomorrow.